Hey guys, it's Caleb with Stain and Seal Experts, and I'm here today with
Michael Bain.
Michael Bain, and we're going to talk about bidding jobs. A lot of you guys are out there in the world you're new to the world of bidding fence and deck staining projects, and I'm just going to talk to Michael here. We're just going to have a little conversation about what we do and how we bid projects, and I'll go over some common questions, and then I'll show you my screen, and we'll kind of go over the few line items that we look for on every project that help us stay real consistent with our bidding. So, you got any questions to start?
Yeah, so what about hourly rates?
I try to stay away from hourly rates. You can do it, and I think everybody should know their hourly numbers and wages, but I feel like it's going to be better for us if we put items by the square foot, by the item, and things like that in our system. That way it's much easier for us to keep up with. If we go to really large projects, then I start figuring, tracking man hours and things, and we always do P&Ls on every job. So at the end of a job, it's going to go through our QuickBooks, and our bookkeeping staff, they're going to do a P&L, which shows profit and loss, and that's based off of man hours. And then I use that information, and it will help me go back and get our per item numbers adjusted properly. So I'm going to take you right into my screenshot here, and we're going to let you have a look at what we do on the computer. All right, guys, so when it comes to bidding a job, obviously the first thing you've got to know is who your customer is. We use a program called Job Nimbus, and it works okay for what we do. I'm not going to say it's the greatest thing ever, but it works good. It does a good job. It allows us, when the phone rings, we can input a contact, and we'll just say, we'll do Ronnie Musgraves. We'll just make up a fake customer here, give him a fake email address. That's our email, and let's just say his phone number is 615-555-1283. And his address is at 12 Fence Stainers Way. And let's say he's in Oklahoma City. The cool thing about this program is we can assign this to anybody in our company. We can assign a sales rep. We can choose what kind of customer they are. We can pick out what our lead source is. Maybe it's a repeat customer. Maybe it came in off of a yard sign. They saw our truck, a door knocker. Maybe they're a fence contractor. It just depends. But we'll just say that this came in off Facebook. And at the end of the year, we can track that. And we can look and we can go, oh, wow, this fence company sent us 74 jobs last year. We're going to send them a nice little gift basket come Christmas time. Or Facebook's really outperforming Pinterest or whatever. And it just gives us a way to track it. So I really like that feature. So now we've got our customer created. So we can stop here and wait for our salesperson to contact this person and then do the estimate. Or if you want to just go ahead and do the estimate, you can. So we would just add an estimate. And so when we're doing like a fence staining job, the first thing we got to know, is it going to be cleaned or is it new? And so if you're cleaning, we offer 3 basic types of cleaning. So we've got our first basic wash, which is basically a bleach solution. It's a low-end service. Basically, we come in, we do a bleach solution, maybe a 2%, maybe 4%, depending on the project, and we're just going to do a soft wash. So we apply our cleaning chemical, we let it dwell for a few minutes, and then we're going to go behind with soft wash tips in our power washer, and we're going to rinse all of that away. So we're rinsing all the stuff off. We're getting rid of the dirt and debris, the grass on the bottom of the fence, the splash up, the dirt that splashes on the bottom. We're just cleaning it all up. And the reason we rinse our bleach solution where most people don't is basically years and years ago, we were taught to just spray bleach on the fence and leave it. And we kept getting a lot of customers that would question us and say, hey, are you not going to power wash my fence? I'm paying you, or are you not going to power wash it? So once we started just going behind and doing the rinse, we realized we could charge a little more money because it was an additional service. We got a little better result because it got rid of all the dirt and the debris and things like that you really didn't want to be staining on top of. And thirdly, our customers were much happier. When they see that power washer come out, even though it's soft wash tips and we're just rinsing, they really feel like they're getting their money's worth. And that's what we want to do. We want to give value. So our basic wash has got that in. It says it right here in the description, 6 foot tall, cleaning both sides, chemical cleaner and pressure rinse both sides. So there you go. And it's not a high pressure rinse, it's a low pressure rinse. And it's pretty much in and out. It's pretty basic thing. Now the next step, we have a 4-step cleaning, which basically is using some type of oxidizing cleaner, whether it be sodium percarbonate. You can use bleach, but when we go to this 4-step, we're generally not going to use bleach. It's going to be a sodium percarbonate, sodium metasilicate, or maybe even a hydroxide, like a stripper type deal that we would add on. And so we apply the chemical, we let it dwell, we rinse it all off, and then we're going to apply a brightener, which neutralizes, it brightens the wood. It's very easy to see where you've been and where you haven't been with a brightener because the color changes, which is very nice. And it also opens up the grain of the wood to some degree to allow more penetration with these oil-based stains. Once we do that, we rinse the fence down. Of course, we rinse all the grass or anything down too that might have gotten chemical on it, and we're off. And that service obviously costs a little more than the basic wash. So that's 2 options we can give our customer. And our third option is going to be a full restoration. So if we're doing a full restoration on a fence, it's very similar to that 4-step process, but in the middle, after we apply our cleaner, we're going to strip all the dead cell wood off and just get all that buildup off. You've seen the fences that look like they have carpet growing on them, and that the moss and just all the craziness on the really old fences that look bad. There's only one thing you can do with those, and you just got to take them down. You got to strip them down. And so we would apply our cleaner. We would let it dwell. We would do the strip where we use pressure to strip off the dead cell wood. Then we would apply a brightener or a neutralizer. And then we're going to do one final rinse. And that is a long, drawn-out process that you should charge accordingly for. You got to figure your man hours and your material and things like that on the job. Obviously, it's more expensive than the other 2. Sometimes more expensive than the other 2 combined. It just depends on the project. But once you've got your cleaning and restoration deal figured out on your job, on your quote, it's time to quote your staining. And for us, fence staining is very basic. We do it by the square foot. If we're talking to a fence contractor, we're going to talk in the linear foot language. But for our in-house stuff, we're going by the square foot. And basically, we have 6-foot tall stuff. We do it just by the inches, so it's 72-inch tall. 8-foot tall is going to be 96 inches, and you can see the different types of fence we've got in there. And so just 72-inch tall, basic fence. We're looking at both sides, and the way we do the math on that is if we have a 6-foot fence that is 100 feet long, then we multiply it times 12. 100 times 12, because there is 2 6-foot sides of that fence if we're doing both sides. So 1,200 square feet would be a 100-foot long, 6-foot tall fence that we did both sides on. If we're doing only one side, obviously it would only be half that much. So I don't like to, if we're doing a fence and it's 200 feet long, I don't like to say it's 400 feet long because it confuses you. Some guys will say, well, it's 200-foot fence, but it's 400 feet of fence because we're doing both sides. I don't like that language. It causes confusion for me. So what we do is we just multiply it. We double it. If it's 200 feet, we multiply it times 12 instead of 6. So we're counting both sides. If we're doing one side, we just multiply it by 6. Same thing with the 6 and 8 foot, 10-foot tall fences. It doesn't matter. You double whatever your height is. And if you got a fence with a big cap, you might want to add on for the cap as well. Especially on some of you Texas guys that are running those 2x6, and I think some people even run a 2x12 cap in some parts of the country on those big double-sided fences. So you got to add something for that cap. So we do this again by the square foot. So let's just say we're going to go with our basic fence. You can just, with this program, you can see here, you can see my cursor, square foot is what we're looking at. So that normally we're going to raise our price on a 1,200 square foot fence, but let's just for purposes of the video here, we're going to say 1,200 square foot at 0.6. I think a 100-foot long fence, you need to have a minimum, so I think you should probably bump your rate up on a fence like that, maybe to 85 cents a square foot. You gotta set minimums, and 100 feet is below our minimum. Our minimum is 125 feet for our standard price. But anyways, let's just say your average fence 1,800 square feet. That's a 150-foot fence at 60 cents or 50 cents, whatever you guys' numbers are. You can see what it does. Some of you guys are still bidding stuff at 40 cents a square foot, which would be $7.20. 55, that's going to be $5.50 a foot. Or I'm sorry, that's going to be at 50 cents a square foot is going to be $6 a linear foot. 40 cents a square foot. It's going to be $5 a linear foot. 45. You do the math. You can figure it out. Moving on, just you need to figure your square footage. If you've got extra masking you got to do. Some jobs, if you got a little flower bed you got to mask, it takes 5 minutes. We're not going to add extra money for that because our guys are efficient and they know what they're doing. They just jump in, they mask it up, and I'm not going to charge my customer extra for that. But if there's a swimming pool, if there's a lot of trees, if there's a white vinyl fence next door that's 3 feet away and we got to mask it, we do charge for those things. So for instance, you can add in your system or whatever you're doing, like a pool masking, and just click on it, boom, one pool masking, and you can see what something like that looks like. That's pretty much it. I mean, we're just looking at our surroundings. If this fence is on top of a wall, obviously you might add in like masking of some type, and just figure out what you're looking at. You could say extra masking fence built on rock wall, and leave it as something simple as that, and you can just add in each, because we do this one by the item. Let's just say there's 2 rock walls and we want to charge $85 a piece for those rock walls. We can just add it in real quick, something like that. But there you go. Just know what's going on, know where to draw the line on when you need to charge extra for masking and when you don't. For instance, in our market, we have metal gate frames on a lot of our fences. Some markets have metal posts. We have wooden posts. But we have metal gate frames. Let's see what I've got in here. Sometimes we will charge extra for those gate frames, but generally we're not going to add on. There you go. Wipe down metal frames to remove any overspray from staining. We just wipe those gates down. It's standard for us. If we wanted to add $10 a piece for that, we can. But for us, our guys are really quick and efficient. They're wiping the hinges down anyways. So to wipe a metal gate frame is not a big deal. We're not charging extra for that. That's a decision you guys got to make in-house. Are we going to charge for all these things or not? And some I think you should, and some I think you shouldn't. You don't want to be excessive. You want to be fair and reasonable with your customers. But on decks, here's where everybody wants to know what to do on decks. And the way we bid decks is we want to be very consistent. So for our decks, we do a very simple thing. We do a 5-step process on every deck. And so deck cleaning, 5-step process. Basically, our 5-step process for decks is to sand away and remove lumber grade stamps. So those stamps you see on wood that show pressure treated pine number 2 grade, it's green or black ink that they stamp into the wood. We remove those, and you can do that with 80 grit sandpaper. And so we remove those lumber stamps. Then we're going to go around the edges of the handrails, anywhere that somebody might get a splinter. If there's a place on the deck where maybe some sap has leached out, and we want to sand that sap away because the sap's not going to let stain penetrate through. So we just spend a few minutes going over the deck, hitting those stamps, getting any splinters, and anything that we just need to clean up with a sander, we're going to do it. And we're going to be very easy with the sander, obviously, because we don't want to get crazy with it. Then we're going to apply our cleaning chemical. Sometimes you're going to pre-wet the deck, sometimes you don't. It just depends, and experience will tell you what to do on that. But we're going to apply our cleaning chemical. We're going to let it dwell. We're going to rinse it all off. Then with soft wash tips, again, we don't want to tear up the wood. We don't want to fuzz the wood or fur the wood. And then we're going to apply our brightener. We always brighten decks. And when you start brightening decks, you'll see why. It makes a big difference. So we brighten the deck, and then we're going to rinse it off, and we're done. Now, obviously, there's a lot of steps I didn't discuss. This is a bidding video. There's a lot that goes into cleaning those things. But that's basically a 30,000-foot view of the 5-step process. We're going to sand, we're going to apply a chemical, we're going to rinse, we're going to apply a brightener, then we're going to rinse. Those are our 5 steps. And that's it. That's basic for us on decks. We're not doing any bleach cleanings on decks just because I just don't like the results. We're always using some type of a chemical that we make them, we sell them, and a lot of other companies do too. Just deck cleaning chemicals, for instance, sodium percarbonate's a good place to start. It's not my favorite, it's not my go-to, but it's a good place to start if you're new to that. And then obviously, you know, an oxalic acid brightener is a great brightener to use. There's other brighteners out there, but that one works good, and it works for many things, so you can try that. But what I really wanted to focus on this video was consistency. Most of you guys know how to bid staining and cleaning and things like that, but the way we get really consistent, where we can bid a lot of decks, and we found a formula that we use, and I don't know if it's good for other people, but it works very well for us, and that is the square footage, and that's the decks, the landings. Okay, that's the way I've got it in my system. So deck, floor, and landing staining. We do deck steps, the number of steps. We do steps by the number, and then the railing. Where is it? There you go. Railing we do by linear foot. So you're going to see over here under this column square foot, and then each, and then LF, which stands for linear foot. So our deck flooring and landing. So you got a 10 by 10 deck or 12 by 20 deck, whatever that number is. And then say you got a set of steps and then a 4 by 4 landing, and then another set of steps. So let's just see what that would look like. What did we say? 12 by 20. So that would be 240 square feet. And then we've got a plus a 4 by 4. So what is that? 16. So let's say 256 square foot on the deck and the landings. And then let's say we have 4 steps going down, and then a landing, and then 4 more steps. So we have 8 steps total. And we do steps by the each. How many steps there are, we charge for those. And that's a standard step. So if it's a wide step, obviously we need to add money to our bid, because the step maybe is an 8 foot or 10 foot wide step. You see those every once in a while. So what do we say? That was a 12 by 20 deck. And we have 8 steps. So I'm going to say 16 feet of railing down the steps plus the 4 by 4 landing. There will probably be 12 feet of railing on that 4 by 4 landing, and then let's say 16 feet of railing across the front plus 16, and then 12 and 12 is 24. So that deck, roughly a good estimate on what a 12 by 20 deck with 8 steps and a 4 by 4 landing, there would be about roughly 68 feet of railing. And that's it. You can quote all your deck jobs just with those 3 numbers right there, and that gets you pretty darn close to where you need to be. Every single time it'll be consistent. You can look at the number of steps, you can look at the linear foot of railing and how many square feet it is, and we get a really good number that we can use over and over and over. Now there's going to be some variables. If there's something underneath the deck, we may need to add masking. We may need to add an additional charge for a big concrete pad. Maybe we need, maybe there's a big set of pavers underneath with an outdoor kitchen. Maybe there's a swimming pool really close by. Obviously, those things we would add on for. But some of the other items that are a little more standard that you might look at, might want to put on your deck staining to help you be consistent would be post. So we do deck post, both tall and short. So some decks have these 6 by 6 posts, and they're underneath the deck, they're support post, and maybe they're short. Or maybe they're tall. I think for us a short post is 8 feet or less, and a tall post would be 8 feet or more. And so maybe you've got a deck that has 3 of those posts up underneath, and they're maybe 6 foot tall, and you want to add on for that. You got that. Another thing that we do by the square foot is going to be deck skirting. So if you've got a deck with lattice up underneath it, or you've got decking boards that are vertical, and they're being used to underpin a deck. Generally, you can look at your footage of railing. Say we got 68 foot of railing, and let's say that there's 3 feet of underpinning all the way around that deck, 3 foot tall, and it's the same length as the railings. Well, 68 times 3, you got 204 square foot of railing. So we'll just add that on, and you can choose what your number is. Maybe it's 50 cents, maybe it's $1 a square foot. It just depends on you and your system. But going by those line items there really helped us to be consistent with what we do. And I think if you start bidding your decks that way, or at least kind of think about that system, I think it would help. And if you got any questions on this video, I'll be more than happy to answer them down if you leave them down in the comments. But I can't really think of anything else. You know, just get your stuff figured out, what it's going to cost, and this will be an easy way for you to become consistent with your deck fence staining, your deck staining, and all those ways of quoting jobs. And obviously, I've not talked about special considerations. You got to put your eyes on these jobs. You got to make the decision on what you're going to charge, or what, if you've got to upcharge for things, or if maybe you get a 1,400 square foot deck, maybe you need to lower your rate a little bit because it's a large project. Those are decisions for you to make. I do urge you guys to look at making a 50% margin. And if you can go with 50%, you'll be in good shape. But I hope this helps. All right, guys, if you liked that video, go to stainandsealexperts.com or restorativewoodproducts.com. Check out some of our products. I'm inviting you to look at that. I wish you would. Also, make sure you, Michael knows where it is. Where's the link?
Oh, you got push the link below, hit the like button, and follow us on Facebook.
Oh yeah, Facebook. Go to Staining University on Facebook. Type that in the search bar, and it'll bring you to a Stain and Seal Experts Staining University group. There's a little over 1,000 contractors in there that do stain projects every day. There's a huge backlog of projects, questions and answers, things like that are on there. So if you're new to this, if you're about to stain your porch, if you're on your 10,000th stain job, it doesn't matter. Get on there and check that out on the staininguniversity.com. Thanks, guys.